This thing to work. Good evening, ladies and some gentlemen. Luckily, we also have some gentlemen joining us for the conversation on gender. That's always very encouraging. Thank you so much for joining us in the evening when I know the energy is really running low, but the agenda is very important, and it's great that you could be joining this conversation. And our event is titled From Global to Local, Financing Sustainable Women-Led Climate Solutions. And I think it's really fitting at this forum where there are a lot of global discussions happening, but also for this panel, we actually have some activists who work very much on the local level, but we're building bridges between each other. My name is Nina Kalabashkina. I work for climate investment funds. So a little bit far away from the activism. And within the climate investment funds, I work on gender and social inclusion. So climate investment funds is one of those financing facilities. It doesn't fall under the UNFCCC convention like other climate funds, like Global Environmental Facility or GCF or Adaptation Fund. But it works on a really large scale projects with multilateral development banks. We have 12 billion in climate finance in over 70 countries. And with that, part of the work that we do, and specifically part of my portfolio, is bringing the focus on gender, on women, and trying to bring a very specific focus on local women and develop partnerships. So it is a great honor for me to be moderating this panel and have really such a wide, diverse range of speakers who could share their perspectives. And I think like our objective today, so the event is co-organized by the Vital Voices as well as WOCAN. So again, an example of one organization that works really on the global level, and the other that does community level projects, but across a number of countries in the region. And we're really trying to build bridges between different conversations. So conversations about climate finance, conversations about policies, but then what does it mean on a very local level? And we plan to have a round of interventions from the speakers, and after that, we also hope to engage a bit with the audience and use some time for that as well, because I'm sure by the virtue of being in this room, you obviously also have a lot of experience working both on the climate action, but also on the rights of women and girls and on gender issues. So with that, as I mentioned, and also, we're talking about different countries, but and dialogue between different types of organizations, between different entities, also between different ages. I think that is important, and we have some younger activists, some a little bit more seasoned ones, yeah, and it's also great to have our male allies as well. I think we can never do much progress on gender equality without the support of men in that struggle. And we want to hear from this diverse perspectives, and then to start drawing some common themes, common messages, and formulating some call for actions. So I think right now we are going to start. Hafsad, I think we're going to give you the floor both as part of the panel, but also as part of the organizing committee, you and Cecile, right?
Also, I was wondering, to the people in the back, is it possible to get one more chair like this? Because WOCAN has a second speaker here. And I just think it's not in the spirit of partnership that she doesn't have a chair on the podium. Can we, because these are big chairs, and it's even wrong to give her a small chair. No, it's not okay, Cecilia.
As a moderator, I can give up my chair. I think that would be, so let's
No, it's not okay, please. No, it's not okay.
I don't think.
You are a partner, you have to come up, please.
I'm so sorry.
The wrong energy. Yeah. I'm so sorry about this.
We'll just have to share the microphone.
We'll share the mic. We can share.
Exactly.
You have like.
Great. So I think to begin with, I would like colleagues from the Vital Voices and then from WOCAN, especially seeing we have two speakers with slightly different perspectives. Each one of us carries our own personal story. Let's kick off with that.
So thank you so much, Nina, for agreeing and to partner with us and to help moderate this session. I know you already had like maybe 4 sessions today, and yet you came in here as if this is your first session, and so happy. And I know this room is far from full, um, but it's just a joy to see that you guys stayed behind. When we were walking into the hall, my colleague Marina and I, people were walking out, people were going home, but you guys stayed, and that really means a lot to us. Um, Vital Voices was created to empower and support women. Actually, we know that women are powerful and that they're already making a huge difference around the world. But because of cultural, legal, and other barriers, they're not giving the same visibility, they're not giving the same support that men have come to expect. And there's this Arab saying that I like. It says, great success comes from great support. And if the support isn't there, it shouldn't be a surprise that we're not seeing women in leadership at equal proportion to men and in business leadership, in other kinds of leadership. And the world suffers from that because women, maybe because of our socialization, are fundamentally different from men. And the world suffers when we're holding women back. So we were fortunate at Vital Voices that when Hillary Clinton was First Lady of the United States, she went to Beijing Platform for Action at the United Nations event in China. And she made the statement that women's rights are human rights. And when she came back to the US, she created, with a lot of women leaders in America and globally, an organization, the organization Vital Voices. Now we are able to say that we have 46,000 members in 168 countries. We have tens of millions of dollars in our annual budget. And our whole focus is women's leadership, how we empower women entrepreneurs. And we use our resources to bring Fortune 500 women executives to mentor women executives, women entrepreneurs from all over the global south. We work with women like Marina, who was the first woman to put forward a domestic violence bill in Russia. She also worked with the Russian government. She set up the first domestic violence hotline in Russia. But just people like Marina, but all over the world. So they're working on social transformation, economic transformation, political transformation, and we get to accompany them. That's been our privilege. So we are excited about this issue from global to local, financing sustainably led women solutions, because money is not coming to the women at the local level for many reasons. And it's not going to come unless we actually actively work to do something to bring a change, which I'm hoping we will be discussing with the other panelists today. I just wanted to actually mention that, we're happy to have Annika here. She's from Fridays for Future. She was only told today because our colleague who was supposed to be the speaker had an emergency and had to go back to Germany. But Annika has been so excited, and it's just wonderful to have a young person and her voice here, and to have also Natalie, Cecile, and is it Monica? Colette. Um, because this issue is so critical and we need all your ideas. And then even also from Men Engage, they have a statement that they want to share. So Nina, thank you for your moderating. I don't know if do you want us to make initial comments now or?
No, let's
Okay.
divide it. I mean, we had some preliminary questions, but I think now based on that introduction from Hassad, and before I give the floor over to the other co-host to WOCAN to also introduce the organization first, I just want to, for all the panelists, to throw kind of some questions to start thinking about, because I think what Hassad has brought up is this change, and we were talking about call for action. So, we will be expecting you to first present a little bit about your organization and kind of the work you do, but then then, let's start focusing, what change do you envision? What is that vision of change that you're thinking about, and what needs to be done for it? And then also, I really liked your quote from that great success comes from great support. Who are the stakeholders that you need support from? So I think part of the conversations at COP, and especially at the sidelines, is about reaching very different audiences, very different stakeholders. As I've mentioned, from my background, and we've actually started the morning early today with Hafsat and Cecile. We were at a panel that Climate Investment Funds was hosting, where we were consulting with the diverse group of stakeholders as we're revising and writing our new gender and social inclusion strategy. And we're trying to look for ways how to bring this kind of larger multilateral institutions that work with government, with large private sector, but then link them up to women on the local level, but also how to then make some changes in the policies that would allow more resources to flow to women organizations. So I think those are kind of the three good questions for everyone to start thinking about. And in the meantime, I would like to give the floor to our co-organizers from WOCAN. If you can introduce the organization a little bit, and then we'll have to do kind of more your personal introductions a bit later as well.
Thank you so much. Thank you for coming this evening. I think, as the moderator said, the energy is going low. But we know that we should keep up, and that's what we're trying to do. So I'm Cecile, representing WOCAN here. WOCAN is Women Organizing for Change in Agriculture and Natural Resources Management. That WOCAN is created more than 20 years ago. And we are pushing for women access to direct access to funding, capacity building, exchange experiences, with all this building network. And we are in Africa, we are in all the continent now, and we are really pushing for this connection between the ground level up to the strategic level, so that we have women getting up and down all the space to talk about their issues and to have a place in the decision-making mechanisms. So that will come globally. And I'll come back to what we have done so far in the second term. Yeah, thank you. And I'm with my colleague Colette. She's from Chad. I'm from Cameroon, and we are covering Africa as WOCAN.
Great.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you so much. So maybe let's disrupt it a little bit and give the floor to our men participant, to our ally, before we talk to other ladies around the table. And if you can start just with a bit of an introduction of your organization and kind of what you do.
Okay, thank you. My name is Jimran Muhammad Saek. I'm from Cox's Bazar, Bangladesh, basically. So we have an organization, name is YouthNet Global, and today I presenting the basically ally our one of the organization Main Engage Alliance. So I'm presenting the basically a statement of Main Engage Alliance. So what I am from YouthNet Cox's Bazar, Bangladesh. So what we are doing in Bangladesh basically. So we have a youth lead organization. Basically, we are in 45 districts of Bangladesh. We are doing the youth engagement in capacity development because we know that the knowledge gap for environment and climate segment. Another thing is we are the designing the campaign, and another thing is that we are doing the advocacy also with the different stakeholders. And sometimes when the floods or different devastating occur in Bangladesh, then we are sometimes helping the emergency relief also. So this is the background from our organization. Thank you
so much. Let's stay on that side of the table, and we have Annette. Anika, sorry, it's the end of a very long day.
Yeah, I get it.
It's
Been a very long day for all of us. I'm Annika, and I come from Germany, and I am the spokesperson of Fridays for Future Germany. So I'm organizing these big mass protests of youths and children that are taking to the streets and that have been taking to the streets for the past 5 years. And we could although it's not initially thought of as a feminist organization, it's quite certain to say that in the past, Fridays for Future really has been led by women, and it is still being led by women. It started with Greta Thunberg, and it just keeps on going. Right now, we always have women at the front because we can really see that women just have the also the personalities that are really necessary for combating the climate crisis, and really are the ones that are empathetic and the ones that are caring about their environment. So I think it's all around the globe that the climate crisis, the fight against the climate crisis, is really being led by women. So that's an incredible thing. That's also that can also really be seen in Germany. And for the one question, I forgot one of them, but the one question was what stakeholders we need support from, and I thought that was very an interesting question because. Well, support. I'm not here to seek support from anyone or anything. I don't think that we really need support. I think more that it's that we need to target those specific stakeholders that are here present at COP. We've seen those over 1,700 fossil lobbyists. We see that many governments just do not care and are just here to to try to do some backsliding on decisions that have already been made. So that is also a motivation to be here and to push for actual progress, because especially the EU really needs to step up, and the EU needs to pay, and that is just so necessary. And it is not just we are. Technically, the global north is in debt right now. It's in debt to the global south, to the ones that have not created the climate crisis, but that are suffering from it. And that is why also activists from the global north are here to tell this to their governments. And that is what we're doing.
Thank you so much for that introduction. And one of the questions that I will be coming back to you for is also the change that you want to see. But it's a very kind of, I think it's a very strong point about not asking or seeking for support, but rather being in the position of power, trying to change things. I think it's a very strong message. I want to go to the end of the table on that side, and we have another colleague. Natalie. Oh, yes. And if you could please introduce yourself, your organization, maybe your kind of initial remarks.
Well, thank you so much for having me on this panel. I'm so happy to be alongside our seasoned people within the climate conversation. It's really an honor to be alongside you. So my name is Natalie Mangondo. I'm a principal expert in sustainable finance for nature for an organization called Grid Arendal. And we are a Norwegian foundation that works closely with the Norwegian Ministry of Environment, but then also acts as a center for the United Nations Environment Program. And I work with a lot of scientists, a lot of really intelligent people, but I was essentially brought along to build our sustainable finance work. And the first step in doing that work was understanding what certain things mean and developing metrics and measures to ensure that we're actually doing the work we really mean. So one of those measures was, what is integrity in practice? And when we did our work with the incredible people that I work alongside, because I'm just a finance person, but with the scientists, what we actually found was high integrity is defined by having women-led solutions and projects that focus on women. Those are the projects with the most financial sustainability, environmental sustainability, and environmental impact. And so it's clear that when you do give the finance to women, be it in climate solutions, be it in maternal health, be it in investing in education for children, we as women are able to make those resources stretch far further than any other group can. And so what we're trying to do is build a nature-based solutions portfolio around that. Thank you.
That's really great. And I think we can start moving into a little bit deeper interventions. And since you've already started to touch on the subject of finance, I wanted maybe WOCAN then to talk, Cecile, to talk a little bit about the W standard as one of the also solutions to try to tap the market and bring more resources.
Again, yes, WOCAN has developed what we call W plus standard. And this is a standard that can really help any partners, any organization, any private who really want to invest on women. And we can measure leadership, the standard work for food security, time saving, health, income and assets, and knowledge and education. Personally, in our organization, I'm a member of WOCAN, but I'm also facilitating a regional network. We call the African Women Network for Community Management of Forests. We are now in 20 countries in Africa. We have used W plus in one of our initiatives with women who are living in the mangrove area in Cameroon, and their main activities is on fish drying. So women fish dryers. Because we have provided an improved fish drying equipment, we call it fish drying equipment, women have been able to save using W plus. We have realized that they have saved 52% of their time when compared to when they were using the traditional fish drying equipment. And it's really make a great difference. They have improved their income by more than 40%. They have improved their health because with the traditional system, they were exposed to very, very bad heat. And they always has problem with their stomach. They had a lot of health problems anyway. Now with this improved equipment, they have also succeeded to improve their health. So we have used W plus standard in Nepal, in Cameroon, in 3 other countries, I think, I don't remember very well, in 3 other countries, and it works. And in Cameroon, you can't believe how much women can get a fund from what they have done. Because what the process is, when you have finished the credit process, the credit are sold in the market, and at least 20% of the fund that the credits have generated go directly to women. They have their plan, and we also guide them and support them in planning how they're going to use the resources that they have generated. And most of them, those, for example, in Manuka Island, as I was sharing the experience, they have said they need to continue with the improved equipment, because what they have now are not enough. They need to cover all the women with those equipment, because they have seen the importance of that and the advantages. So women W plus is a standard that can be used and can help to measure even leadership. We have example, for example, in Nepal, we had like 4 projects there, at least 4 projects in Nepal. Thailand also, we use it there. We use in Nepal, in Thailand, in Cameroon, in Madagascar, in Cote d'Ivoire. Yes, those are the 5 countries that I know W plus standards have been used. And this standard can really be a solution on all what we want to. We have been talking about mainstreaming gender in this, doing caring for women, trying to improve their leadership position, getting them in decision-making processes, improving their health and socioeconomic development. W plus standard can help to do that. And it has proven their effectivity, and we can really use it in very, very diverse situations if you want to. We have 6 domains that I have just shared. So it works. Why not get there? Because at least what are the advantages? Women don't go into competition to get funded. I was talking about SIF this morning. SIF is saying millions of dollars. And for those women, they don't have access to those type of funding. It's too much for them, and they are risky at the risky position because the private who are mobilizing they don't have the security that the fund will be effectively and you know the way they want them to be used. But with this W plus, you don't need that. You just buy the credit, buy W plus credit, and that give money to women to continue their activities, to improve all what they want to do with in their own activities and environment. And you know, even improving the gender relation in the family. We have also noticed that with this women plus W plus standard in Manoka or anywhere, women have also improved their relationship with men, with their husband. Now they have now like 52% of their time to dedicate in other activities than drying fish. When they were drying fish 24 hours, now they are drying fish for 6 hours. All other, they have time now to participate to training, to go to social event. They are now considered in their community. The mayor will invite them to this and that, and they will be there, while in the past they were not even known. They were not known. So I think it improved the relation, the gender relation, the gender power relation in the family, but also help women to improve their decision-making power in their community. They are influencing things that are going on in their direct environment. And this is something that is very, very important. That's what we are talking about, leadership. If we don't do that, women will always be victims. And now we have to avoid, let's say we have to go far from getting women as victims. Women are direct actors, and we have to continue to show that. And the W Plus can help really very far to make it happen. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Sil. I think the kind of couple of interesting takeaways there. First of all, there is a lot of discussion about grant funding and public funding and the lack of thereof, and how it's never enough, never sufficient. And I think here, you know, looking at the private sector, looking at their own, you know, ESG requirements and their own corporate commitments, where they can, without actually engaging in projects, then they can buy these credits, which will help them with their own reporting and corporate commitments, whilst this money is actually going to be reaching local communities. This is really beautiful idea, and we're at CIV also exploring how can we try taking it to scale. And I think the other aspect of it is leadership. You know, usually, you know, we talk about women and women credits, but it's like, okay, well, we want women to just be beneficiaries, but like going beyond being beneficiaries, and the standard actually is, you know, has quite a high threshold of changing the dynamic and bringing women in more leadership position. And that's the thing is fascinating. Before we move on to kind of other organizations, I want to give a chance to your colleague, Colette, right? I'm very bad with names. I mix up the names of my children all the time. So I'm really sorry. It's not to do with this panel, but it would be great to have your perspective as well.
Yes. I will try with English, but maybe I will jump in the French. I'm working for Lead Chad. Lead Chad is Leadership for Environment and Development. And we are networking with Cecile. And we are guiding, we are accompanying women agricultures, the local women. And what I would like to say is that climate funding is really a good way to exacerbating inequalities in local level, because really we have women who governed with all of intersectionalities elements. They are not educated. They have not comment dire accès à la terre.
Access to land.
Access to land. They haven't, autonomization for acheter, for for buy this land. They are not educated. So what LEAD is doing is to implement what we calling climate literacy. Is like alphabétisation écologique. So we try to literate these women, but by promoting solar cook stove. And that is why we say with the solar cook stoving, with the WOCAN's program, we can live and maybe connect this program to Chad and to benefit these women. So that is what LEAD is doing now. And by partnering with Mission Inclusion from Canada, so bilateral, we are like a organization for the central local partnership with an international organization and going to the local level. So it's really the way to bring funding in the local, level, and it's something. So that is, what I try to to get out now. Yeah, merci.
Thank you so much. Well, I think we're done with our round of introductions. We now know each other, and we can move on to the second part, really going to the call for action part. And we can talk about either, the change that you envision and what needs to be done for it, or kind of more broadly that's the kind of the key issues that you're advocating for in the space of bringing using climate finance for gender equality.
So on that topic, Nina, thank you so much for your excellent question. The change I envision is us living on a planet as if we're aware that we are part of nature, and for the earth to understand that it has champions, it has defenders, it has allies in humanity, that we're Earth's first defense and if necessary, only defense. I look forward to a time when 8 billion people on the planet keenly aware of our deep responsibility to the earth as a sacred home. As far as we know, the only home that life has in the universe. Maybe we will discover another, but we've yet to do that. And until we do, we should act as if this is a sacred space, because that is what it is. And we should stop, I look forward to the time when we're not thinking of borders, when we could care less that Annika is from Germany, or that Marina is from Russia, or Colette from Chad. But we're deeply aware that in every part of the earth where we are, it's our responsibility to care for the water, the forest, the air, the birds, the animals, the plants, so that the future life can continue to have all the opportunity. And I think that finance is going to play a key role in that. And Nina, so it's such a pleasure to have your partnership at SIF, because you guys are finance experts and you bring together all the experts on finance for us to be always thinking, how do we create within the world of finance the tools that helps us human beings embrace our true identity as Earth's first and last defenders. And I think when I think about that, I think we should have a climate positive credit agency or finance agency where countries, communities get ranked with how well they're taking care of the planet, whether women or men and boys or girls, how well we're taking on our role. So I imagine that the people in the Amazon in Brazil, their educational system would be very steeped in all that they need to know to protect the lungs of the earth. And in Congo, in Africa, in the heart of Africa, we also have one of the lungs of the earth, and the people there should also be taught what they need to know. And in fact, I think that indigenous knowledge often has a lot of information. So that knowledge should be what is taught in our schools for how we protect our rainforests and continue to grow our rainforests. And we need to learn, we have agriculture, but many times we have monoculture, and monoculture is so carbon expensive. Whereas if we had different kinds of growing of agricultural plants, the soil can be a carbon sink. And we should all be teaching all the farmers about this. And we should be incentivizing our farmers through our finance system. We should have a finance system that can reward Congo and Brazil for protecting the lungs of the earth. Then we should have a finance system that rewards smallholder farmers, whether they're women who have the title for land or not, but who are protecting the land because they're smallholder farmers who are managing the land in a good way. We should be having a system to reward them. They should not be the poorest farmers. The richest farmers should not be the large conglomerates who are practicing monoculture and are poisoning our planet. All our systems that don't make sense. I envision a world in which we've brought everything into sanity, because we cannot be chasing insane incentive structures and expecting for a sane world. That's just not going to happen. And the good news is that we have women. I know we have women in the Vital Voices Network, the most brilliant women. We have women like Susanna Mohammed, who is a member of our network, who is the Minister for Environment in Colombia, who is championing bringing indigenous wisdom into the governance system in Colombia. And I said to her, Susanna, this knowledge that you're promoting in Colombia needs to be also in Nigeria, my country, which is an oil-producing country, where we also have indigenous people who are pretty much set aside, ignored, seen as backward. But since they have been embraced in Colombia, and Colombia is now regenerating its rainforest, since they started this integration of the indigenous knowledge, they've regenerated 60% of the rainforest. In Nigeria, we are down to 7% of the original rainforest. It's not too late. We can still take the wisdom of our indigenous leaders and let that govern how we go forward so that we can save what remains and begin to regenerate and restore. And, I heard my sister Annika saying, and she's not really my sister, she's more my daughter, really, because I could give birth to Annika, and I would not be 16 at the time of the pregnancy. I'm that old and she's that young. But, we need to get to the point where, the global north, I don't want, Annika had said she felt so guilty about the history of the global north. We also, from the global south, where we have been, all of us, chasing the Western model, we also have to unlearn. There's so much that we need to unlearn. And then how do we all learn together what we need to do to be the human beings the planet needs? So this is what I envision. And I'm so excited to have somebody as wonderful as you, Nina, and our sisters from Chad, from Cameroon, from Zimbabwe, Norway, Bangladesh, from all over the world. And Marina, with all our vast experience, Julie, all the people here, let's work together and see how we start to build those blocks, understanding that maybe we will not see the building at the end, but we're lucky, and Annika is going to see the building and be able to tell people how we laid the foundation and the work that we did.
Thank you so much, Hafsat. I think that was really like soul warming. And for me, as somebody who's been working inside the World Bank system for the past 10 years, I kind of almost forgot the language. Like you operate in a very kind of regulated environment where there are only certain things that you can dream of and where the change can be only within those parameters. But I think going all the way to the root causes, and also thinking about the sisterhood and thinking how those, more feminine visions of how the world operates and our relationship with nature could be so helpful for restoring and healing the wounds of our planet. So that was very, very touching. But if we do get back to the question of finance, the more boring but so important world that we really need to find a way to talk to and to leverage towards this more radical feminist agenda. I want to then go back to one financial expert around the table, Nathalie, if you could share some of your perspectives in terms of what is the change that you see and what can be done in your opinion from where you stand from the work that you're doing.
Yeah, thank you so much for that question. I think, you've caught me on a bad day, but where the hope is a bit lower, unfortunately. But, we still continue to push on, because if we give up now, then, yeah. But in terms of the changes that I see or that I want to see right now, women-led climate solutions are underfunded, undervalued, and overlooked. And so that would be the change that I would want to see. And the way that in which we do this, first of all, is having women as decision makers. It's really important to change this narrative that, be it Africa or be it women or be it young people, we're just the recipients of aid and, the kind hand of the global north or of the donors. I think what we really need to see is women being in positions where we are the financiers, because as I said, if anyone can make a dollar stretch really far, it really is women. And then I think we need to change the way in which we view finance and in which we value things within finance. And I think that speaks a little bit to the reform of the international financial architecture. My ideal world would be having nature valued as our greatest asset within the international financial architecture, as well as beyond that. And knowing that women are the custodians of nature, if we value nature as our greatest natural asset, then we will value women's contributions in turn. And so that's the kind of change that I really hope to see. And my work often involves making a business case for different things. So making a business case for climate resilient health system, making a business case for nature-based solutions, making a business case for carbon credit trading. And there is a business case for supporting women-led climate solutions, and that's what we're working on, is the evidence-based approach to saying, when women are given $1 of climate finance, this is how much further they extend it. This is how much more impactful it is. And so I hope to see that business case come together and then work in collaboration with multilateral development banks, with philanthropies, with all people within the financial ecosystem. And I think I would just leave it or end off with a message to you, given that you're representing the multilateral system. And that's to encourage you to perhaps experiment. It doesn't have to be a big experiment, but just try things, just pilot things in small ways, just experiment a little bit more and see what the results are. Really look into what the results and the impacts are, because in the climate community, we're good at communicating before, but in terms of communicating our impacts, be it for nutrition, be it for health, be it for biodiversity, we're not so good at that. And so I'd encourage the multilateral institutions to just experiment more with women, with young people, with developing countries, and see what happens and communicate the impacts of that.
Thank you so much, Nathalie. I just wanted to share two reflections on experimenting. The climate investment funds is among the funds is considered the most agile because we are not part of the same kind of governance and architecture of the Paris Agreement, and that's why we do a little bit more radical things. Like, for example, experimenting with youth. We last week we launched the second cohort of our youth fellowship. So sponsoring the young people to do an internship in the MDB working on climate within our investments. There is also another mechanism I personally been trying to do some experimental work on. It's called women-led coal transitions, and it's linked to our bigger accelerated coal transition system. And it is hard. Like we're among sisters and brothers here having quite an honest conversation. With that project, we actually tomorrow at 10 o'clock in South Africa Pavilion, we will be having a bit of a conversation of some of the early experiences on that. But just before the session, I was sitting in a cafeteria and I actually ended up crying because I keep having different conflicts. So in order to experiment within the multilateral system, you find yourself fighting against everyone. Like you keep coming up with ideas, you're fighting inside your system, everyone. Like, well, why are you doing this? You then need to go and kind of work with the MDB and say, let's do it this way. And you encourage them to be also very mindful of the money. I've spent my entire life in the multilateral system. I started to work for United Nations. I was 17. I'm from Crimea, Ukraine, and I started to work on community development projects. I've turned 18 in the office. But I always treat the multilateral money as my own money, and I'm very frugal. I come from very poor background, so with my projects, I will like always think twice before spending and like argue, is this expense really necessary? And with this project, it's really been like trying to push the MDBs to push the money further to the actual women organizations on the ground. It is a struggle. It's moving. We do have some successes, but it comes like at a huge personal cost. Sometimes I'm thinking like, why am I doing this? Just an hour ago, I was like, that's it. Hello, I'm done. I'm going to resign after this mission. But then talking to people like yourselves, where we are like leaning into each other and giving each other strength, and then building the partnerships, I think it helps us to carry on. But I wanted to switch again from this conversation on finance, which kind of moved a little bit into more safer space and the technocratic terms, and go back to our youth activists, and for asking you to maybe, going back to the change question, but bring us a little bit of more radical visioning.
Yes, I think the most urgent thing we really need is a change in values, a change in societal values, a change in personal values, just this global shift. And I think that is why also the UN conferences can actually achieve that much, because there's just so many reasons. I think it really, really shows what is needed, and what it shows the situation of people in other countries, and it builds empathy. It actually shows in the end what's important, and it's also necessary to have this global shift of the money from the global north towards the global south, because that is then what because in the end, I think in the global north, we need to realize that it's not all about the constant growth and the constant more and more and more. It needs to be more about humane values, and that needs to really, really be given a higher importance. So I think we need also to open this discussion of, is eternal economic growth even possible? Because it does not really make sense, because we have unlimited resources. And I think that this is something that is seen as quite radical, especially by northern governments. But that's why it's necessary that we still talk about it, and that we implement this idea in society. And that's also something really, really big that can be achieved at UN conferences, because shifting the money is something that would achieve so much justice. Well, not not justice, but it would close the gap at least a little bit. So that's why it is necessary to also push here and to push the global north. And that's also what makes it so frustrating that everything that the global north right now is really talking about is widening the contributor base, and that they are still at this COP, although it's 2024 and they have acknowledged that they need to pay years ago, that they're still discussing about whether other countries should do more, and that they're still not acknowledging their responsibility here.
Thank you so much. I think it's really powerful, and without the paradigm shift, without starting to think how we live our lives differently, I don't think we can really, with technological solutions, solve the problems. And I was at a panel today where we were talking about green cities and digital technologies, and there was one comment made talking about data. Usually when we in development
learn how to live together with planet Earth, even when I am in a big city. And I also think that's how we all together need to make a pathway of that knowledge to our planet. So what is each of your personal commitment? One commitment. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Marina, for that additional challenge. I think we're ready for one more round of very brief comments. We did promise to the organizers that we'll clear the room at 8, and we'll probably would need few minutes to chat after the panel. So we do want to start wrapping up. For me to answer Marina's question, and like it resonated really deeply personally. I come from Crimea, which is the territory in the south of Ukraine, which is under Russian control. So and I'm ethnic Russian, but both Russian and Ukrainian. And I also kind of been following policies both in Russia and in Ukraine very closely. And I do believe, looking at it kind of in a decade perspective, that you see a correlation between this rolling back in the gender norms and increase in gender violence, and then changing actually of the legislation that decriminalizes family violence, and then the country rolling into the situation where it finds itself as an aggressor and in a very violent war. I really see that there is a connection there. So to answer Marina's question, and then kind of bringing the personal, also like in the end of the very busy week here at COP, I was traveling for 2 weeks in South Africa before coming here. I feel exhausted, and I also feel that this narrative of that you need to do more, you need to push yourself, you need to perform as much as possible. This is kind of where the violence starts. The violence starts kind of with violence towards yourself, and then towards others, and then towards other people, and then towards the planet. And so back to Marina's question about commitment, I commit to actually care about myself much more. So I have more energy to care about my family than my garden. I live in a house with a garden, but I haven't touched it in years. And that would be what I could do for the planet. But now handing over to my panelists. Let's go back to the beginning of the table and start with Jimran.
Thank you. What we are first answer, I just first answer it. So we know how children and women are affected in our vulnerable communities, in also not only the Bangladesh but also the whole world. So they are the most affected, and what we are doing basically. So the knowledge gap, and also the man and voice, or man and voice and women, and bridging the gap. So we are doing the bridging the gap. Also we are doing the the men are the most devastating for the environment. The first 10 richest person in the world, no women. So all of the men. So we are doing the how to men and boys are doing the great for the gender perspective, also environmental climate perspective. That's what we are doing to ally we are connecting and for the better and good future for all. That's what we are doing basically. Thank you.
Yes, I think I will just answer the question about my 1-year commitment, because I think that is a very interesting question, actually. But I will, of course, one thing I will definitely do is to keep doing what I'm doing, to keep speaking up when I see injustices, to keep pushing my own government to acknowledge its responsibilities towards the whole world, towards the future, towards my generation, and towards upcoming generations, to really also show everyone in my country, around the world, what damages fossil fuels and the climate crisis really do. So that's one thing that I'm really committing myself to, that I really have to keep doing that. And also, I found that comment about that it's actually about the system that we live in very interesting, because I think caring about yourself and others is something that is so incredibly relevant, to also have other peoples that you can fight with, for the environment, for the climate, then is also something that I am really trying to do. And I'm really trying to just be there for the people around me, that then we can all be there together for our planet.
So I think, what's your name again? Bruda? Bruna. I still remember that it was a breakfast or brunch in New York City, and we had all the ministers who are in charge of preparing COP30 in Brazil, hosted by you and your team and your founder. And it was, I cried. I cried because the women ministers in Brazil that have been given the responsibility by President Lula, they've taken this responsibility so seriously. And they said to all of us that were gathered there that they want to use that time to call on indigenous women of the world to come to Brazil. Do you remember they said that? And I just remembered all that they've suffered as a people in Brazil. Many of their leaders in the past have been killed, but President Lula has brought them into the government. He's trying to deliver what he calls the People's Cup, and he has put them in charge of that. And just to think that this is a historic moment, I just found that it was just so moving. And I'm so, so excited to be with you soon in Brazil next year. To the question that you asked, I think it's not an easy question, and I love those kinds of questions because, frankly, we're intelligent enough to meet the challenge that you've posed. How do we open this market? We know that if we don't open that market, the credit financing, the climate financing that needs to be unleashed will not be unleashed to its maximum capacity. What you're doing already in Brazil with a lot of recognition there, and I think in a couple other countries, needs to be in 200 countries. And we need to do that very quickly. So what I want to commit to personally is that, now I'm climate lead for Vital Voices with an incredible team. And even the leadership of Vital Voices I've known for 25 years. When I was fighting for democracy in my country, when both my parents were gone, my mother was gunned down, my father died in prison, fighting for democracy in my country, Vital Voices were by my side, helping me in that fight. And by 1999, 6 years after we launched that fight, my country had democracy restored. And it's a democracy that we've never looked back since. So the other day in Nigeria, we were celebrating 25 plus years of having a democratic system that I know my parents gave their life for us to have, but they were not alone. So many gave their lives. And it was so beautiful for me to witness that. So I know Vital Voices and I know the power of that network, of the leadership, the integrity. And I will be joining them in January. Marina is already planning that meeting. Once we have our dates, Bruna, we will let you know so that you need to come from, I hope you will not be in Brazil then, maybe you'll be in New York with the rest of your team. Hopefully you'll be nearby, or maybe you'll send somebody and let us start thinking together. There's some people that even Marina knows directly, a Nobel laureate in economics, who is just a brilliant mind and deeply committed to these kinds of issues, and deeply committed is a man, but deeply committed to women and our emergence as partners with men. And so if we have those dates early enough, we will make sure it's there. We need minds like that. All of us sitting together with you, and let's start looking at the question, how we unlock that market. And then also, when Nina was telling me she was crying, I just thought to myself, this is the perfect time for her to join Vital Voices. Because the powerful women that we have, Nina, they need to be championing you, because the truth of it is that you are leading something, you're pushing something, and actually it leaves you exposed. You need support. You need the right kind of support, and you need that support to be quite dynamic and powerful enough that it will impress the people that want to push against you. It will caution them to think twice and to give you the space you need. So Marina and I will luckily, and Julie are going to be having dinner tonight. you're the number one thing on the agenda, how we support you, what we need to do to position you correctly so you have the support you need, so that when you enter any of those rooms, you know that you're surrounded and that you're surrounded by angels and there's power all around you, so that you'll be able to speak with the confidence that you need, and you'll feel supported because you're not doing this for yourself. You're doing it for the planet and for all of us and for the future, and you shouldn't have to carry that burden alone. And the last thing I wanted to say is there's so many things we can do, but I want to remind everyone of the African saying, my favorite of the African sayings, and we have a lot. It says, when you want to go fast, you go alone. But when you want to go far, you go together. And the climate crisis is such an unusual crisis, requiring humanity to go both fast and far. So how do we go alone and together at the same time? It's such a contradictory moment, but I know that we as a human family, we're going to figure it out. And the ladies from APAC, you guys as a regional group on the planet, you've moved so quickly, moving billions of people out of extreme poverty. I don't know if you tracked your progress on human development, but it's unprecedented in human history. So we know that you've gone fast and you've gone far, and so we know it's possible. And if you've done it in that region, the question is, how can the whole world do it? And that's where we're going to go. And whatever we do, we leave for Natalie and we leave for Annika. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Hafsat. That was very moving. I think a lot of us came here at 6:30 thinking like, I would rather go home. We're so exhausted. And now by 8 o'clock, the energy is rising because we're sharing so deeply and kind of going beyond the types of the conversations we were having during the day in the official meetings. But I would like to hand over to Colette for some of your final remarks.
Okay. Français. C'est intéressant tout ce qu'on a discuté ce soir, et surtout que le financement climatique, ce n'est pas seulement pour le climat, mais c'est l'intersectionnalité, comme on vient de dire. Donc, attaquer l'éducation, la santé, la biodiversité, l'économie, les droits, finalement, c'est tout ça qui fait le financement climat. Donc, pour moi, il faut des interventions, des paquets d'interventions. Et on a besoin vraiment d'être innovatif avec des nouveaux guichets pour le financement, comme on vient d'entendre ce soir, et de garder aussi un réseautage, parce que c'est ce qu'elle a dit, on se communique les forces les unes et les autres. Et si moi j'ai quelque chose comme un défi, c'est de permettre à 100 femmes dans ma communauté, là où nous intervenons, d'avoir une portion de terre pour cultiver jusqu'à la prochaine COP. C'est vraiment mon défi. So, I don't know if...
So about 60%?
Maybe
like summary.
Yeah.
Just a summary from Colette. Colette is very happy with the discussion that we had, but she thinks that it's important to understand that the climate finance is inclusive or should be inclusive. It's very, very important. All sectors are interested that are needed, and various stakeholders and different type of mechanism can be developed. And for her, what she's committed to be doing is, where she is, she has around her working with 100 women. And if before COP30, she can succeed to get to bring those women get access to secure land, that will be great for her. That's a commitment until Brazil next year.
That's a very powerful one.
Yeah,
We'll
100
figure out how to support you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Shall we give Natalie, and then we'll let Cecile close as one of the co-organizers.
Okay, so I'll just quickly respond to your question just for the sake of time. We know our support from the COP29 also needs to get home, but essentially the same issues, the same systemic biases and barriers that are across different sectors are present in climate. So the lack of access to land tenure is a big one, particularly in the climate space, because it reduces the access to climate finance mechanisms, the lack of decision-making power for associated with women in the climate finance space, as it is in every other finance space, is also present. And then that is what makes the climate finance as it is today not fit for purpose to be gender responsive. So those are kind of the barriers. The same barriers that women face in any other arena are also still there in climate because of the systemic nature of those barriers. And then just to close on my commitment, I just want to highlight my favorite gender champion and ally, who's my father. And, you know, he's building boreholes in our home village of Murewa, close to spaces that women congregate to solve that problem of women traveling such distances. We had a cyclone called Cyclone Idai in Zimbabwe, close to the border with Mozambique, where women, once they were staying in this temporary housing, started being abused and trafficked. And so he's been working on that. But I just want to recall a conversation that I had with him when I was complaining about paper straws, which I can't stand. But I was like, oh, paper straws A, B, and C. But I have to use paper straws because I'm in the climate space. And he was like, but you have a mouth. You can drink with your mouth. And so that's my personal commitment, is just challenging the assumptions that I have about the system that we're working in. And thank you so much for this platform. It's really increased my energy. So thank you so much.
You. So Cecile, you have a double role of closing up, but also sharing your remarks and commitments.
Yeah, thank you very much. I think that we have got great event, and I wanted to come back on what we did so far and what how we see things moving. I think that all women are not the same, and we are not at the same level, and we have to take that into account. It's very important to support women entrepreneurs, but it's also very important to support these small farmers, women, because they also need funding to continue to improve what they are doing. I am very also informed that we need capacities. There is a lack of capacities, and we really need to strengthen capacities. Also, so many actors, including our institutions, you know. And for that, we need some innovative ways today to address the climate finance access for women. And I'm very happy because what I heard this morning, I have not heard that earlier before on SIF and your partners. It's like, you know, there is a raising awareness on the necessity to support women. Now we have to see who to support and how to make it happen for those who can make it, those who have the capacities. Or anyway, I always say the capacity can be taken at any time. If you have funding, you can contract someone to come and build your capacity, come and take over the accountability and everything that you will need, sustainability and everything. So I think what we really need is this awareness and the decision, commitment we can take to support women. Rural women on the ground. And the women, the W plus is a stage, you know, we start with capacity building, but you know, we start with building collectives with women. That is extremely important, to build collectives with women. And from there now we move from there and with them, and we plan how we want to make things happen. So some will be more dedicated, you know, to let's say, how is it dedicated, but maybe more adapted to this usual way of funding, but others need some specificity, some innovative procedures and mechanism to reach down there. My commitment is that one. how can I make it possible that women in the ground, on the ground, the rural women, because I was grown up by my mom and my sister, and there were women in the villages. I've never experienced anything else than even my commitment to become in agronomist, and it came from my mother. My love to forest and environment came from my mother. So I think for me, unless rural women have security to land, to forest, security to resources, access, direct access to funding, to continue to heal our planet and to give us life, I will never stop. I will never stop. So we have to get there. Can we make sure that we now develop innovative and specific approaches that will reach out those groups who are in most need and who are making things happen on the ground? Thank you very much.
Thank you. I think we have overstayed our welcome quite a bit, but thank you so much for the amazing energy. And I think we wanted to take a picture.
Should we quickly take a picture and then get outside?